All right, good morning, party people. It's a beautiful day in Milwaukee on July 8th. Hopefully, you guys had a phenomenal 4th of July and you enjoyed yourselves. You took a little time off, you took a deep breath, you spent some time outside. Maybe you had a few beers or a few, whatever it is that your libations of choice, if you so choose. I think it's the best day, one of the best days of the year, my favorite day. Um, got it. Thanks, bud. So, Willis is just telling me my screen was cut off. Um, but one thing I did want to start with, and this is, I would say, appropriate because I was there yesterday, but didn't realize the impact until I got there. Um, so if you paid any attention, and I didn't really over the weekend until yesterday, until I understood the gravity of the situation, but there was some historic, what they would call 100-year floods down in Texas, on the Guadalupe River. And it's in the Texas Hill Country. Um, and on the Guadalupe River, there's about a dozen boys and girls camps along this river, a variety of different camps at different towns. Um, and look, I'll be totally honest and frank with you. So much natural disaster and negative things happen within the media that you become a little immune or sometimes becomes white noise to it, of different things that happen globally. And I would say, like, I kind of paid attention to it on Sunday, but I didn't really know where it was or what it was. Um, and I was like, oh man, that's really sad. And then you kind of hear some of the stories that came out of people looking for kids and people looking for their parents and loved ones and so on and so forth. Um, and then I got in the room. So Sunday night, I took a flight to Austin. I spent basically 24 hours in Austin, got home last night at 1 in the morning. Um, but Gary, I spent the day with Gary, and there was 10 of us in the room, and he like walks in, and he's a very, when he walks into a room, the room stops. That's just kind of who he is. Okay, it's the presence he carries. He also has this like energy about him that like commands a presence, right? And he also he kind of takes this like very Steve Jobs approach where he's always in a black sweater, he's always in black pants, and he's always in a black pair of Nikes. I don't know why, I've never asked him, but like he's just got this energy to him. And he walks in and his energy was very different. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty true. My kids, he has one son, John. He's like, my kids went to camps there. I know a lot of people that go to camps there. I know people who have ranches on that river. Like, it's real devastation. And I was like, whoa, shit. Okay, like this is now hitting kind of close to home. The reason why I share the story with you, and I'll kind of lead off with this, is he spent like the first 30 minutes talking about KW Cares. And it wasn't to talk about KW Cares as a way to raise money. He talked about it in a way that I've never really truly understood. I always thought, oh, KW's there for when people need it the most. The way they do that is by showing up. For those of you who've been around for a while, they really showed up in a big way when the hurricanes hit Houston. And he's like, no, KW Cares in natural disasters provides three things that are the hardest things to get. He goes, we provide refrigeration through trucks. I guess they have a whole fleet of refrigeration trucks. We provide water and we provide generators. He goes, food is bountiful. The Red Cross shows up. All these organizations show up with food. He goes, it's impossible to get electricity. It's impossible to get water. And refrigeration is a nightmare. So those are the three things we provide. And so the reason why I kind of led with that this morning is more so to say, like, A, these things are happening. B, kudos to him. He's understood how to make a real impact in a way that a lot of organizations, I think, don't know how to make an impact in terms of a way that it can be meaningful. And this kind of leads me into, which I'll get to in a second. I took 11 pages of my notes. I was with him yesterday from 8 in the morning until about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. And one of the coolest parts of the story, and I'll get to the business case to this as to why I'm sharing it, His next door neighbors are the three brothers that own the Yeti brand. Okay. And his next door neighbors in Austin, it's three brothers. And as the way he described them, they're very Texas country bumpkins that stumbled into an incredible brand. But his point is he has teamed up with these guys because they provide refrigeration, water, and generators, that he has purchased thousands and thousands of Yeti coolers at cost. And he said, by the way, the markup on those coolers is insane because I know what cost is. There's a reason why the company is worth $3 billion. That's a whole nother story, which will be a foreshadowing. But my point to it is twofold. One, pray for those in Texas. The devastation's real, and I think the stories are profound. It will make you stop in your tracks and have gratitude and be grateful. And pray for those that are dealing with it. Two, to give you a little bit of an insight as to who the leader of the organization is, what he thinks about, and how he thinks about making an impact versus just writing checks or sending things those ways. He truly thinks about what is the highest and best impact of KW Cares: refrigeration, water, and generators. And I don't know, I just lost my train. Three, it helps you understand who you're in business with. And I think that's important. So I share that with you because it didn't hit. Look, I was totally a little blind to it, a little callous to it. I was coming off the high of 4th of July, and I was like, oh man, that's unfortunate. This whole thing happened in Texas. And then he spent probably 30 to 45 minutes helping us understand the impact and what he's doing about it. And I was like, and that's not to say I haven't had my battles with him, which are a little quiet and a little private, but it's profound, the impact he's had. And I think it goes in the belief of our mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives, and the impact and the legacy you can leave, and the businesses that you can build, and the impact that you can contribute. So I'll start with that. Outside of that, what do we got today? Got a little marketing updates, a little bit of compliance updates, and then I'll share with you 3 themes from my day yesterday. I took 11 pages of notes. I got many notes and emails last night after my post at late night on a plane. I was like, how do I make an impact with how I spent my time yesterday for those that look to me for leadership? So I'm old school. I write everything down on pen and paper because it's the way I remember it. I'll transcribe those this afternoon, and then I will send that out to the group this afternoon. But I have 3 themes for you after spending the day with him, which I'll share with you at the end. Sound good? Sweet. All right, I'm going to lead with education and events. Handful of things to note. Friday, the offices will be semi-closed, is how the best way I would describe it. Starting at 11, I'm hosting a leadership retreat with all 32 of our leaders and their families and their kids on Friday. So, God, I don't know why I'm like, it's been months since I've gotten choked up, and now I got 2 weeks in a row. But I'm hosting everybody on Friday afternoon. With that, again, you have access to the offices 24/7. The focus teams are incredibly kind and generous to help the best they can, make sure that we're welcoming people. We've looked at the closing schedule, but just please note, we are hosting a leadership retreat with our entire leadership team, their family, and their kids on Friday afternoon as a way to pour into them and their families here this week. Sound good? All right. With that, July training calendar is out. I've talked a lot about AI. I'll talk more about AI later. There's 5 to 6 opportunities in the month of July to lean into AI, a variety of other things on the calendar. I think it's a really robust calendar. Make sure you pay attention to dates, times, locations. Some of it's virtual, some of it's in person, some of it's in different locations. So pay attention. New is Willis on Tuesdays, right after team meeting in the North Shore. For those in PC, you want accountability, you need accountability, and the most successful people insert accountability into their lives. If you need it around goal setting, planning, how do you maintain accountability in terms of follow-up and creating momentum? Willis will be hanging out on Tuesday mornings in the North Shore, a new thing that we're trying to roll out because you need accountability. You need accountability, and we're going to create some systems around that with Willis in the North Shore beginning on 10:30 on Tuesdays. Everyone is welcome. All right, how do you close AI from contract to close? It's on July 8th, which is today at 11 o'clock via Zoom. Feel free to register. Also, a bunch of AI stuff coming up throughout the month of July in terms of how are we utilizing it to increase the speed and the efficiency in which you work. Last week, I talked about the 90-10, 90-10 model. 90% of your work should take you 10 minutes or less to 90% completion, and your value creation will come from the 10% you do with getting you to the final piece of the creation of value you deliver. What makes you you? What makes you unique? Okay. The last mile opportunity for Amazon is how do they get the pack of gum from their warehouse to your door? It's the most expensive piece. That's where your value is created. Okay. July 17th, Bridge to Brighter. I've talked about this a bunch. Feel free to register. Ignite is coming back starting on August 6th, kicking it off with me. Again, then you got a Schroeder, Brian Eggers, Don Shipley, Taylor Coolidge, Jen Strelka, Jay Schmidt, Holly Speranza, Mackenzie Brogan, Emily Fair rounding it out. You don't have to be new to take Ignite. This is a class of diversity of thought and diversity of approach is vital for you to think about how you are evolving your business. Learn from those that are doing it at an incredibly high level. Family Day at Camp Bar at the State Fair on August 21st from 3 to 7. Join us with your friends, your kids, your spouses, your partners. It's like a company picnic is the best way to describe it. It's not during the state fair. It's after the state fair. It just happens to be at the state fair. Cool. All right. Mega camp. You're not average. If you want to be a mega, this is an average camp. Okay. You don't get into this business. No one successful is common. You have to be uncommon. Want to learn how to become uncommon? Go to mega camp. All right. With that, Linz, it's off to you.
All right, good morning. All right, so we've got some exciting updates to our marketing concierge, specifically to some of our brand templates. And so since we're officially in the back half of the year, we thought it'd be a great time to revamp some of those templates that we have available, specifically for business cards and email signatures. So these are brand new templates. We've got 7 new styles for business cards and 10 new styles for email signatures that you can now choose from through our marketing concierge. So if you are looking at your marketing, your business cards, your email signatures, things like that, and they don't necessarily reflect your brand and your professionalism, utilize our marketing concierge. We will design these for you, and we can tweak certain things to some of these templates as well. And we want to make sure that everything is being reflected with your brand and your professionalism, like I said. So we're always rolling out new templates and new materials and new assets that you can push out to your clients and your followers. So check these out. These are on our website, kwrealtymke.com. Go to the marketing concierge page, and you'll be able to see all of these new templates where you can request these right now. We also have them updated in our new agent package. So if you're a brand new agent and you have not yet ordered business cards, or you don't have an email signature, or maybe you haven't even announced that you're in real estate and you're with Keller Williams on social media, now's a great time to do that. Brand new templates and materials that you can choose from. So those, again, are on our website. Go to Marketing Concierge and you will see all of those new options on there. Like every single month, we have new 12 direct campaigns. So we have the Packer schedule and the Badger schedule available now to send out via a postcard, on social media, or as an email smart plan through command. So all of this content has been updated. If you click on or scan the QR code and go to that Google Drive folder, you will see all of those available campaigns that you can download and utilize and send out to your sphere. And then last thing, super excited to have Jonathan Newby join us this Thursday at 11 for Beyond the Feed. He is talking all about how to turn followers into clients, learn some different systems and tactics that he utilizes on Instagram and in social media. He's got over 6,000 followers, so he knows what he's doing. He's doing some great stuff. I'm sure a lot of you follow him already. Now's a great time to hop on Thursday's training, ask him questions. And he's going to share a lot of really good insight. So join us on Thursday at 11. It's on Zoom, and that will be recorded. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Linz. All about automation. How do you speak to your clients? All right, here we go. Sheriff Reed, what do these guys need to be paying attention to? Is a seller's refusal regarding the condition report. Alert, alert. highest and number one reason why we get an E&O situation. Why? Failure to disclose. Sheriff Reed.
You stole my line.
There you go.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, the real estate condition report is probably one of the most significant documents that we deal with because number one, it is not a real estate form. It is a Wisconsin statute form. So it's a law in Wisconsin that every person selling their home, every seller selling their home has to fill out this real estate condition report. It is a full disclosure form, and it is something that the seller, under your guidance, needs to be made aware of what it is. But it is not your guidance to show them how to fill it out or to give them your opinion on what's a defect or not, or to give them any advice. It is legal advice, if anything given. They could reach out to a lawyer. Even for sale by owners have to fill one out. So if you're trying to sway a for sale by owner, you can give them that information and maybe even the record form. There are some people who are exempt from it. I feel I missed a slide. Was there a slide up at the beginning?
Nope.
Nope, sorry. I put a list of exempt sellers who are not required to fill out the report, and these 6 exempt categories are also on this refusal form. So if you have ever had any question about who is exempt, tell me. There are quite a few of you who still have questions about it because this is the most common question about a record that I get, and I'm sure Steph does too. Who is exempt? He never lived there. Is he exempt? Is he the seller? Yes. Then he's not exempt. These 6 categories are the ones who are exempt from filling it out. And notice that every one of them, except for number 6, means that they have never lived in the property. So somebody can be a trustee and you'd think that they're exempt because they're a trustee or a personal rep. But if they live there, even as a child, they are not exempt. The 6th one is a property is exempt from a real estate transfer tax. And that's usually property being exchanged within probate, parent selling to a child, their child or whatever. And those are exempt from the transfer tax. So therefore those transactions are exempt from the real estate condition report. So keeping those in mind, that is something that you always need to find out because a lot of sellers don't want to fill out the condition report. They're a little nervous thinking that if they outline some of these defects, that it will turn the buyers off. So they either try to soft pedal it or they don't want to fill out the real estate condition report. The seller can use this form if they adamantly don't want to fill it out, the seller refusal form to identify which exempt status they fit into. Then there's a separate category for sellers who just refuse to complete the report at all. Say they bought it and renovated it, but never lived there, and they are not sure all of the things that are in that house. They just know what they renovated. If a seller wants to do that, and in my experience in selling, I had 2 sellers that refused. It's something about the sellers I work with. They had 2 sellers who absolutely refused to fill out the condition report, even though they were the sellers. And that is when I found this form, this was several years ago, and had them fill it out. Now, I'll go over the form briefly, but there is a category where somebody says, like my 2 sellers, they won't fill it out. And that implies that they're selling it as is. So if we go to the next slide, this is the report. This is the form. And it's too small to really get into it, but I will read about this section right here, lines 13 to 20. This is for the seller who says, absolutely not, I don't want to fill it out. I'm selling it as is. And the seller hereby acknowledges that seller has refused to provide listing agent with a completed record, or VLDR, that's vacant land record, or other seller's disclosure report for the property. Seller understands this refusal may be disclosed to potential purchasers and has been advised that the seller's refusal to provide this report does not release the seller from disclosure obligations under the Wisconsin statutes or common law. Seller should consult with a legal counsel regarding the seller's disclosure. So that is this section that says what happens if, like my two sellers, absolutely just refused to. They had renovated the house, they'd never lived there, but they were still the seller. They were not exempt, but they still didn't want to fill this out. They did check with their attorneys. They understood the liability was still there for non-disclosure. But this form can be used for that or to identify those 6 categories of sellers that fit into the exempt. And one of the things that a lot of agents don't realize, that all of these exempt categories, trustee, personal rep, any of these conservators, whatever, they all end with and have never lived in the property. So if you have a trustee who's, say, a grown son of his mother's home, he's a trustee, so he thinks because I'm a trustee, I don't have to fill out the real estate condition report. Wrong. If he lived there even as a little child, he is not exempt. So make sure that you understand with your seller these facts here. And that's what the education you need to do. You're not going to help them fill out the form, but you're certainly going to educate them into who can fill it out or not. Now, as a real estate agent, you have an obligation, a requirement to disclose any material adverse facts that you see that the seller is not disclosing. And that's on another form of disclosure. So I want to make sure that you understand this form. It is here for your ability to use without being a lawyer, without acting like a lawyer. So the form is found in zip form. It's a good discussion to have with your seller to make sure they understand the importance of the real estate condition report.
There you go.
There you
Sheriff
go.
Reed, appreciate the insight. And the insight's important. You know why? Because Rudy Cuss is always lurking. Always lurking. And if you don't know Rudy, hopefully you never meet him. All right. So we bring it up because the record, disclosure, all of those issues are the reasons, number one reasons why we get brought into E&O. And it's, again, good knowledge base to help understand in today's environment how we help mitigate that risk. Cool. All right. I'm going to finish it up with a few notes and thoughts from my time with Gary yesterday. And I'll just start by saying this. While I generally know him personally, I wouldn't say it's like he's calling me to go to dinner when I'm in town. Okay. I would also say that from afar, he's probably one of the top 5 most influential and transformative people in my life. His teachings, coachings, and consulting of me and on a broader scale of what he has touched within this organization has completely transformed my life. Completely. The way I think, the way I lead, the way I parent, the way I treat Megan, like, it's profound. Now, that's not to say that we haven't had our discourse either. Discourse, I think, is healthy. You can't create intimacy without friction. We've had friction. But yesterday I was able to spend from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. with him and 10 other people in a room. And I'll share with you a few thoughts. This is 11 pages of notes. Well, I have 11 pages of notes. I just took out the first page. That's all I really could get to after flying into town from at 1 a.m. last night. But we spent time in what he calls his bird's nest conference room. It's above the treetops in Austin. Jay, I think you've spent a little time in that room. It is, I'll tell you, one of the coolest things about him just as a person. First of all, he is a lover of arts and the outdoors, and he has exceptional artwork, and he has music everywhere. And he has this conference room in the building where Keller Williams International is, that he didn't say, this is just my own words. I call it like the bird's nest, because you're above the trees. The house directly across the street is Sandra Bullock's. Like, it's in this really cool neighborhood in Austin. And he just like shows up in all black and just like starts riffing on whatever it is that are in his thoughts. By the way, I was only invited to this last week and then decided I should probably go. And then I got a survey and was like, what would you like to hear from Gary? And I was like, oh, this is interesting, because you don't actually tell Gary what you want to hear. It's just Gary walks into a room and tells you what you want, what he wants to tell you. But I share this with you for perspective of just kind of how I set the stage for what the room was like. And I know I will transcribe my notes this afternoon and send them out to the group. And I will interweave different themes and thoughts throughout various team meetings upcoming. It helps me with content to think of new things and fresh ideas heading into Tuesday mornings. So interestingly enough, last week I shared with you Phil Knight's 1980s manifest, and I'm going to kind of share with you a few key themes through my first page of notes yesterday, and it was all related to how you guys operate your businesses and how we think about how we operate our business from a brokerage standpoint. And once we got through kind of the Texas floods and Texas devastation and his thoughts and ideas around how KW Cares makes an impact, it was really ironic because he went right into Phil Knight and Nike. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I just shared this manifest with you guys last week in terms of something I think that is really profound in terms of Phil Knight's 10 kind of key pieces of business. But he went right to number 2. And he said, he talked about offense and playing offense. And he also, when you have to learn something about Gary's teachings come from stories. So you have to decipher what it is that he's trying to tell you or implant in you based on the story he's telling you. Okay. And he talked about, and I would real quick, just to kind of set the stage for who he is. The guy is an unbelievable consumer of content and material. He reads like a fiend. He attends conferences all over the world. He is a true student who believes that his job is to never stop learning. Okay. So I share that with you to kind of help set the stage for how some of this discussion and dialogue went. So yesterday he brings up Phil Knight and Nike, and he goes, you want to know one of Phil Knight's biggest mistakes? He goes, Phil Knight's biggest mistakes. Anybody know? In early 1990s, there was this kid out of Louisiana coming out of college basketball. And in the early 1990s, Nike had hit an absolute slam dunk, home run, however you want to describe it metaphorically, with who? Jordan. And Phil and the Nike team were meeting with this very brash, very arrogant, very overconfident young kid from Louisiana. Anybody know his name? Shaq. And they were a little off put. They said, I'm not sure he's cultural in alignment with Nike. Shaq at the time also wanted to make $100 million a year outside of his basketball earnings. Shaq is, on a sidebar, one of the most successful business people outside of the sports arena. And Nike decided to pass. And Nike deciding to pass, Shaq went on to sign with this small little athletic apparel company called Reebok. And at the time, Reebok was not even the size of the backside of a gnat. And in 10 years later, Reebok became the 3rd largest apparel brand in the US. 10-year period. Knight vowed allow that to happen no matter who is on our roster. And Gary went on to talk about how when Phil Knight had this meeting, they brought Shaq into the Michael Jordan building on Nike's campus, and it was Jordan, Jordan, Jordan. They didn't think he fit with the Jordan image and the Jordan brand. They didn't know what to do with Shaq, and so they passed on him. And then if you look into the evolution of Nike and basketball, Nike never let Kobe Bryant walk. They never let LeBron walk. They never let some of the biggest stars. I would say probably his second biggest mistake was not signing Steph Curry. That's another business lesson. And the irony is then once Shaq left Reebok became irrelevant again. And his point to it is within business, now I'm reading between the lines on all his stories and how he pontificates and he just riffs, is you never know who your Shaq will be within your business. Don't allow your Shaq to go away. And if you need to, make sure you keep your Shaqs. Find your bell cows, a very appropriate Wisconsin phrase. Find your bell cows, keep your bell cows, because the influence those bell cows have on your business can be transformative. There was lesson number one. I don't know why he led with that. I thought it was crazy that I had talked about Nike and Phil Knight last week, but he started with that conversation. Don't let your bell cows walk. Make sure your bell cows are well fed. And whatever it is that your bell cows need, make sure your top people win. I was like, good, got it, noted. And then he talked a lot about Nike and Shoe Dog and Phil Knight. And I was writing notes as fast as I can, but that was kind of lesson number one. Okay. His second lesson immediately right away in the morning is he thinks our industry, there is a huge separation between the haves and the have-nots as it relates to branding. And he talked about his neighbors, the boys, the three brothers who started Yeti. And he said, to be honest with you, they are not the smartest guys I've ever met in my entire life. They are three boys who like to hunt, fish, and drink beer. And all they wanted to do was hunt, fish, and drink beer. And they had no real desire to operate a business, but they needed money in order to hunt, fish, and drink beer. So they had started a variety of different businesses. So their first business that they started was a fly fishing reel company and a fly fishing rod company. Kind of didn't go anywhere. So on and so forth. Then they'd go on these hunts in Central Texas and they would capture all this meat, package all this meat in, and then they would come back after a week in the wild and the meat would be bad. And they had this problem. How do we capture our meat? Like make sure that the meat is preserved. Okay. And he used Yeti as an example to say branding is not only important, it is vital. Everything you do needs to be branded. Everything you do and everything you have is a brand. And he talked about Yeti for a long time. And he ironically called me out. He said, Charlie, look, you got a Yeti on your table right now. You're foolish. You overpaid for that stupid product. And I was like, yeah, sure. But his point to it is the markup is insane because it's easily replicatable. And he talked about all these other companies in the space of coolers, water bottles, and so on and so forth that are replicatable. Yet Yeti came onto the scene. They started the business in 2006. They really popped onto the scene in 2015, and they exploded post 2020. Okay. Today, they're a $2.6 billion market cap, and they have over $1 billion in revenue. They compete with companies that have been around for 100+ years, such as Coleman, Igloo, and others. Okay. They are now 2x the size of their closest competitor. And they control 40% of the cooler segment. And he talked about how Yeti as a brand is aspirational. Okay. And the reason that Yeti as a brand is aspirational is they have a brand promise that resonates with their consumer. And the brand promise is exceptional performance and durability in any environment, emphasizing quality design and a built for the wild philosophy. Built for the wild, a community of communities, keep the wild wild. Okay. And they made a strategic decision very early on as they were building Yeti. They had a desire to create a lifestyle brand, not a cooler brand. The cooler was the product. The brand was a lifestyle. You go to any college football tailgate on Saturday, and over half the coolers are Yetis. It is an aspirational brand, not much different than when you walk down the streets in downtown Chicago. And what do you see? You see Canada Goose everywhere, right? Or why do you go to Wall Street and you see all the vests that are Patagonia? Aspirational lifestyle brands. It says something about you and what the brand promise delivers for you. Okay? Yeti isn't just a hunting and fishing company. They're a lifestyle brand, and they built a lifestyle brand that is aspirational. Now, my commentary to that is what does your brand say about you, and what is your brand's promise, and how are you communicating it? What is your brand's promise? You need to hone in on that. Okay? So last night on the plane, I dug into Yeti's earnings calls. I said, I need to learn a little bit more about Yeti. So the next few slides are my own internal research that I just was Googling as I was on the plane. And the thing to understand about Yeti is this whole concept of the evolution of an aspirational lifestyle brand. And you can see from 2017 to 2022, I mean, they have everything from, they started with coolers. And if you think of them first, you think of them in coolers. Now they're in backpacks. Now they're in bottles. Now they're in t-shirts. Everything is around durability and building this lifestyle brand of being outside and building a sense of community. And innovation was the reason to create repurchase. Innovation was the reason to create purchase. Megan about killed me last week because I had another box show up and I realized I needed another cooler because the cooler I had was really heavy and I needed something with wheels. And so what did I do? I went and bought a $500 cooler because I didn't, the other 10 I had didn't have wheels. It's aspirational and it's a lifestyle. 2, Yeti's real genius outside of building an aspirational brand with a very clear brand promise is they have a diverse community and a diverse community reach. If you go here, and again, this is from their earnings call. This is back from 2022. This is just whatever the deck I found and started going through it. In 2006, they focused on 2 main components of their brand, fishing and hunting. How do I get fresh meat from wherever it is that I am in a remote part of the world back so that it's still fresh and still not bad? What is their community reach? This is back in 2022, so this information is like 3 years outdated. Fishing, hunting, beer and barbecue, culinary, ski and snowboard, skateboard, surf, paddle, sports, music, wellness, ranch, rodeo, climb, alpine. What did they do? They built 13 variety different communities that had 158 ambassadors that built a lifestyle brand that was aspirational. What is your brand promise? What is your brand promise? Lastly, as it relates to Yeti, and then we'll get back to Gary's thoughts and notes, is their rise is directly correlative to their rise in their presence on social media and how they communicate with intensity and frequency what their brand's promise is and how the energy in that ethos lives through social media. Again, this is back in 2022, but you could see the fastest growing social media presence based on Instagram. Yeti was number 3 behind the North Face, Patagonia, Lulu, now Yeti. And similarly, again, this is back a few years, the brands with the largest TikTok followers back a few years ago, Yeti was number 2. They leaned into how they communicate their ethos as a brand along a variety of different channels, mainly social media, and they told their story so that their brand promise came to life. You have to touch people with your brand promise with the senses. They have to see it, they have to feel it, they have to touch it, they have to taste it, they have to smell it. If your brand promise cannot touch the senses, what is the brand promise and how does it live? So, transitioning to the third theme for this morning, and I'll share more over the course of the next week, and I'll still send you all my notes this week, is models. And some of you who've been around a while are going to say models, 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 systems and models. But he talked about it with us yesterday in a way that actually I thought about models differently. And what I did is as he's transcribing notes, he's a big like whiteboard person and he moves 1,000,000 miles an hour. So then I transcribed him onto a piece of paper. And then this morning I built him into a PowerPoint to try and visually share it with you so that you wouldn't have to understand what it is that my notes were. This is what he shared about models. Models have and will continue to drive businesses of the future. We have to embrace them. He used the example of Tony Robbins. He goes, you think Tony Robbins is a motivational speaker. Tony Robbins' genius is he delivers extraordinary results through models. What is his model? He integrates neuro-linguistic programming techniques into his personal development work, particularly through modeling. He emphasizes the power of language and thought to shape behavior and achieve goals, focusing on how individuals can change their focus to alter their thinking, feelings, and actions. And he spent about 20 minutes talking about Tony Robbins and how he uses models to turn average sharpshooters in the military into expert marksmen. He talked about how he takes average free throw shooters in the NBA and turns them into top quartile free throw shooters. He talks about how Tony coaches and trains the top entrepreneurs in the world using neuro-linguistic programming modeling to help them achieve extraordinary results. The world is based on models. It's how you create repeat and consistent success. That's what hit me over the head. Then he went into models. And he shared this. He goes, your business as it stands today needs to be thinking about your business in this model. And he goes, it doesn't matter if you're in the real estate space, doesn't matter if you're selling coolers, doesn't matter if you're selling cars. You have a brand. What is the brand's promise? You have to understand it better than anyone else, and you have to live it every day. And you have to attack every day like today is day one. You have to attack every day like today is day one. Do you understand your brand's promise better than anyone else? And do you live it every day? Or do you sometimes live it? I've shared this with many people before. I believe balance is a fallacy. I believe integration is the key as you talk about your personal and professional life. Integration. How is what it is that you show up with in your personal life and your professional life showcase your brand's promise every day within your ethos. Data. It is integrated into all aspects of your business. You have to embrace it. What are the vital signs of your business health? What is your performance? Who is your consumer? What is the consumer telling you? What is the performance telling you? So on and so forth. You have to embrace data. Why? Because AI is going to be integrating into your model within your business every day because it already has. You will utilize it to accelerate trends, insights, and strategies in order to move your business moving forward. And the last piece of it, in terms of what he believes the model for business is moving forward across all industries, is once you have a brand and you understand your brand's promise, you understand how you integrate the data and you utilize AI to accelerate your trends and insights, is what are the marketing mediums you are utilizing in order to tell your story? Where does your brand live? And with what intensity and frequency are you communicating your brand's promise? He said, every day as owners and runners of leaders of your businesses, you need to be thinking about your business within this modeled framework. Every business across the world globally is thinking about this model right now, today. And we as real estate agents have to be running our businesses like global companies, running the same models that the largest companies in the world are. Okay, that was model number one. Model number two was a framework for how you think about running your real estate business. One simple question: what is your model? What is your economic model? What does your business and financial pro forma look like? Identify that. If you want to make $1 million, you have to work backwards from what the end game is in order to understand the pro forma, to understand what the outcome is. Two, who are your core people? Who are the integral people to your business? What is their influence? And three, leadership. How are you growing their leadership and influence? How are you growing their leadership and their influence within your business? One, what is your model? What is your economic model? What is your pro forma? What is your output? And identifying from your output, what are the activities and things you need to do to implement within your business to get the output you desire. 2, who are the core people within your business? Even as an individual agent, you have core people. I'll use an example. I know of an agent, $15 million producer, 100% of her business comes from an attorney in town. I would argue that that attorney is a core person to her business. What is the influence on that person within her business? How is she thinking about it? Teams, it's a lot easier to identify because you have a lot more people around you. As an individual agent, you have core people within your business. Who are they and what is their influence? And 3, how are you developing their leadership and how are you developing their influence within your business? So, model 1 is, what are we thinking about in terms of how are we building our businesses and how are we thinking about it from a global perspective? And 2 is, how are you thinking about how that business integrates within model number 1? Okay. And the last thing I would share with you as it relates to models, and I think this goes back to neuro-linguistic programming, and I think a lot of the work Tony Robbins has done is he shared this model, is if you have a desire to achieve something extraordinary within your business, there are 3 things that you have to fundamentally understand within your business and get really close to. What is it that you want to achieve? And what knowledge do you need in order to achieve it? 2, how are you going to do it? What training do you need? What education? How are you continuously evolving? How are you continuously improving? And 3, what fears do you have? What false expectations appear real? The number one reason why people don't achieve extraordinary results is because of number 3, fear. And fear shows up in 2 ways, rational and irrational. Irrational is not factual. Irrational is not factual. So, how do you overcome it? He spent a lot of time talking about exposure therapy. And he went back to Nike and talked about Nike's brand promise of around, their brand promise is all around exceptional quality for the highest performing athletes. But their tagline is just do it. Many of you have allergies. Many of you get allergy shots. Allergy shots are simply what? Exposure therapy. You will never achieve extraordinary results if you sit back waiting for things to happen. You have to go and attack it, experience the failures so that you can overcome the fear and the rejection, specifically within this business, the fear and the rejection of a no, or the fear and rejection of getting turned down for the listing, or the fear and rejection of going to your sister who's thinking about buying a new house, but yet you're afraid to go to a family member. You have to overcome it through exposure therapy. So those were 3 to 4 quick themes from the first hour of my day with him. 1, don't let a shack walk. Identify your bell cow within your business and make sure that your bell cow understands the influence they have on their business. 2, okay, is branding is more important than ever. What is your brand promise? What is your brand promise? And 3, everything in terms of achieving extraordinary results starts with a model. And I share with you a handful of ideas as it relates around models in business as it stands today. How are we integrating these models into our businesses and how are we attacking it to achieve extraordinary results? I will send the entire roster, all 11 pages of my notes, and I'll walk through more of them. There was a lot of commentary on the state of the industry. There was a lot of commentary on the Compass, not a lot of commentary, but there was commentary on the Compass Zillow fight, the MLS situation, NAR clear cooperation, how brokerages need to be thinking about playing offense as it relates to adding value to our associates, so on and so forth. But I wanted to start today the way he started yesterday in terms of a very broad viewpoint on business, playing offense at all times, and how do you continuously attack what it is that you do. All the slides from today will be on the KW Realty MKE Agent Hub, and I'll send out my notes after this. Guys, thanks for showing up. Have a great day, guys.